I'm buying a home, but I have to pay rent on the land that it sits on. Well, that can happen here in Maryland. So let's have a brief discussion on ground rent. Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Kelly Wise, a licensed real estate agent in the state of Maryland. Now let's go back to our discussion on ground rent. What is ground rent? Well, ground rent is an ownership interest. Some other ownership interests that you may be familiar with are like fee simple, timeshares, condominiums. Those are all different forms of ownership interest. Now with ground rent, there is a leasehold on your property. That means that you're going to pay a small fee to the ground rent holder. The ground rent holder has a reversionary interest in your property. Ground rent is usually paid semi-annually and can range from $50 to $150, so it's dirt cheap. A common misconception about ground rent is that you do not own the land. In fact, you do own the land if you are the homeowner, and you are responsible for maintaining the land and all of the improvements upon it. Now, the leaseholder does not have any rights to your property, including the land, unless you become delinquent in your rent. If you become delinquent in your rent, the leaseholder can place a lien on your home. If that lien is not paid up, and they can place a lien on it for up to 3 years of owed rents. If it's not paid up within 6 months, the leaseholder can then evict you from the home in a similar process to foreclosure. Ground rent sure is a strange concept, and it can get a little sticky. So why do we have ground rent here in Maryland? Well, the short answer is because we used to be one of the 13 colonies. The long, more detailed answer starts off with the 18th century when colonization first started here. When settlers would come here, they would have to pay taxes to Lord Baltimore. Now, as we pushed out the English Lordship system and reverted more to the Colonial Government, people decided to buy up a bunch of the land. And these people that bought all the land used to rent it out to people that wanted to build a home as a way to make homeownership less expensive. The terms in the leases that were generated back in the 18th century varied greatly. However, one of the most common things was that they generally had terms of 99 years with an indefinite renewal period. They added the indefinite renewal period to get away from or to avoid perpetuity laws. And this is why we have ground rent to this day. There's great news. If you have a property with ground rent and you want to get rid of it, you can through the redemption process. Now, there's a little bit of math involved and it varies greatly. So I've put the link below for SDAT, but the most common version is to take the annual rent and divide it by 6%. So we'll see here in this example, if your annual rent is $75 and you divide it by 6%, your redemption value is $1,250. Now, the seller and the buyer can negotiate a lower price. However, the seller cannot legally request or demand a higher price. Once redeemed, a new deed will be reissued saying that the property is in fee simple. Fee simple, as defined by dictionary.com, is a permanent and absolute tenure in land with freedom to dispose of it at will, especially in full fee simple absolute in possession of freehold tenure, which is the main type of land ownership. Now, what does this mean? It basically means that you now have all the rights to the property without any type of a leasehold on it. So you can sell it, you can rent it, do whatever legally that you want to do with it. Now, how do we redeem our ground rent? We've done the math, but there are a few steps in between. The first, as the buyer, you must send written notice to the leaseholder. In the written notice, you are going to let the leaseholder know that you are planning to redeem the value of your rent. They cannot deny your request for redemption, so that should definitely be noted. Now, at this point, you should obtain either a real estate lawyer or a title company. The title company or real estate lawyer will help you determine whether there are any judgments or liens on the title by doing a title search. They will also help you issue a brand new deed, and then they will take you into closing. A closing is just like if you were buying a home, like when you hear settlement or closing, interchangeable. At the closing, the seller will sign the new deed, and that will be handed over to you as the new owner. You will also be responsible for paying that redemption value and the recordation fees, as well as any of the title fees that came up for the title search or the closing costs that were necessary to prepare the deed and have a settlement. Then when it comes to the taxation and recordation fees, those, just like with a regular home buying purchase, are split between the seller and the buyer. Once the deed has been recorded, you as the buyer then own the property in fee simple. This process can sometimes take up to 120 days. Remember when I said that if you wanted to redeem your rent, that you had to send written notice to the ground rent owner? Well, what happens if you cannot find the ground rent owner? Well, in 2003, in October, there was a law put into place that set up the procedure for what happens next. So here's a list of what you have to do. 1, you'll have to obtain title to the ground by paying the redemption price that we calculated earlier, plus 3 years in ground rent, and a $50 fee to SDAT. Well, in a nutshell, that is ground rent. So if you own a property with ground rent and you're interested in redeeming it, like I said earlier, I have put the link for SDAT down below. If you're looking for a real estate or title attorney, feel free to reach out to me because I'd love to be a resource for you, and I know plenty of them. Thanks again for watching. My name is Kelly Wise. I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Maryland. Feel free to reach out to me also if you're planning to move to this area or sell a home in this area. All of my contact information is below, or you can fill out the contact form. Thanks again for watching. See you guys next weekend. Bye.